Hello and welcome to the channel. And today we're going to be taking a look at the results of Historic's Classic Car Auction, which took place on the 1st of March 2025. Now, I deliberately didn't watch the auction live, so I'm going to see the prices as you see them. So you're going to get my honest reaction. So let's take a look at the results. Well, the first surprise of the day, blimey, the 1993 Peugeot 106. £5,034 and memory serves me right, it had 797 miles on the clock or something like that. That's an absolute bargain. I think somebody's got a really good car for that price. That's a very good price. 5,700 for the Volvo. Yeah, that's. I think they've done quite well with that. It's a rare car though, I must say. Daimler, £3,661. A lot of car for the money. Again, it's just the continuing trend of older cars, unfortunately, isn't it? But it's a really classy old car, is that? And very different. Again, I think somebody's got a bargain at that value, at that amount of money. Blimey, the Daimler DS420, £915. That's just silly money. And yet, they may not be to everybody's taste nowadays, but that's a heck of a lot of car for the money. And there's still got to be some use to be had out of that car. Another cheap Stag at 5,491. I noticed at the last couple of auctions that I've been watching, there's been a few cheap Stags at around about 5,500. Of course, a lot depends on how much work they might require, but that looks quite a tidy car. Blimey, I don't believe it. That Mercedes 500 SL, it's at 33,500 miles. £5,262. 33,500 miles. That seems like a bargain to me. And I think it had a little bit of work that wanted just to make it a bit more presentable. But I think that's a bargain, is that? Wow, what a bargain. The minivan, £14,872. They never fail to bring a good result, usually. And this particular Mini, I wouldn't say stands out as anything particularly spectacular. Perhaps the colour has something to do with that. I'm not decrying the car in any way. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I'm just saying it doesn't have that sudden, oh, I love the colour of that, or whatever. But yeah, £14,872. I think it's quite a good result, actually. So the Range Rover was withdrawn. Yeah, right. No price listed for the Lotus. Let's see what else there is. Already we've had some surprises. The Ford Thunderbird there, £4,290. Now, I didn't take a look at this first time round, I must say. Although one of my subscribers took a look at it and gave his opinion. I can't say that I was ever a great lover of this particular model of Thunderbird. I preferred the previous model much more. Well, yeah, it looks as though it wants a bit of work to bring it up to standard. But for £4,290, I think that's quite a good price, actually. I wouldn't say that's expensive, and you could do a lot with that. The MGA, £12,355. That seems quite cheap. The old Rover P4 there, 9,152. I think that's got quite a good price. That one, actually. Yeah, very good. No price listed for the Golf yet. Now the Ford P100, because I think that was listed at estimate was about 12 to 14, I think. £10,100. I think it had 24,000 miles on the clock or something. Or was it 12 and a half? I can't remember. Let's have a look, see. 12,500 miles. Yeah. Right, an MGC, 11,750, which is cheap for an MGC Roadster, isn't it? The Mulliner Park Ward there for 21,000. That's a fair result. It's not expensive. It's not cheap. So yeah, it's middle of the road. Little Morris Minor post office fan. That's not had a bad result at 12,000. The big Mercedes 500 SL, somebody was feeling brave, obviously, £4,233. It was the limousine version, a nice car, but when they go wrong, they're expensive to put right. The Mark II Golf, 21,000, that's not a bad result. And same for the Silver Spirit, that's achieved a reasonable price, 15,500. And a lot of these cars that were advertised, they were up for no reserve as well. Now, the Rolls-Royce Silver Dawn for £12,584, that's not a bad price. Obviously, the Dawn was rarer than the Spur or the Spirit. So, yeah, interesting. Blimey, that other Mercedes 500 SL, £2,746. As I say, when you offer them out without reserve, you do take a risk. Yeah, so it's had 102,000 miles on the clock, but that should really be nothing to it. It looks, on the face of it, quite a presentable looking vehicle as well. Yeah, quite a bargain. Perhaps some cheap summer motive for somebody. The E-Type there, no price listed. Again, it's a sign of the times, isn't it? Because everything seems to be suffering. E-Types aren't fetching what they used to fetch. Again, cars generally, unless they are exceptional, they don't always get the prices that they were once achieving. Now, the Bentley T2, which I rather liked, has sold, but it doesn't tell us the price. And see what else there's in store. The M3 converter for 12 and a half. That seems like a good price and a very, very smart looking car, I think. The Honda NSX, no price listed for that yet. It may be that some of these cars might sell within the next couple of days, subject to provisional sales, perhaps. Now, the old Daimler there, that's done quite well. Again, considering the old car market, as we said earlier, £10,296. The Alfa Romeo's failed to sell, as the speedboat hasn't. Now that M3, the 2004 M3, 22,000, that's achieved a good price. What was the mileage on that? I can't remember. Let's have a look and see. 80,000, yeah, well, I think that's done quite well actually for the price. Let's see what else there is. The J40 pedal car for £2,746. So yes, these prices obviously are with premium, which is quite a good result actually. Seems quite cheap because you can still buy them new. Company in Salisbury, I believe, is remanufacturing them, and believe me, they are not cheap. Originally, they were built in Wales. The 1937 Rolls-Royce limousine there, £11,440. You would never have believed it, would you, at one time, that you could get something as regal and majestic as that for that sort of price. Again, as I keep saying, it's a sign of the times, unfortunately. But it doesn't get away from the fact that something like these old cars still have a presence, and they're lovely machines. Another cheap Daimler, £2,002. The Esprit Turbo, £19,448. That's about what you can expect. And the Interceptor convertible, £25,168. Now that's left-hand drive, and I've seen that one before actually. Now the little Triumph Spitfire hasn't or doesn't appear to have listed as being sold, which surprised me. Again, a lot depends on the day, as they say, who's in the room or who's looking for something. And I'm sure it'll have its day. The Continental R there for 25,000. That's about the right sort of price for that. I think the mileage was 122, I think, if memory serves me right. Right colour and everything. The Jeep Wagoner, 21,000. Yep, that's about right. I think it was underestimate. I think they were wanting about 25, I think. Yeah, and it looked a nice machine. 83,000 for the Lagonda. Yeah. Well, as Derek Matthewson quite often says, the old car market, you still get the vehicles which still get the prices. Your Alvis, your Lagondas, and it's like. And there you go. If you wanted proof, there it is. The XK120 for 46,000. Now that seems quite a fair price, and by fair I mean, again, that seems cheap considering what they were. Now the Hummer 58,000. That's achieved a very good price in my opinion. I've seen some Hummers which have been quite cheap, and that I would say is quite a surprise. Quite a high result. So I'm sure they should be pleased with that. Now look at that 944 Cabriolet 5,720. Yeah, that seems cheap as well. The Suzuki Jimny doesn't appear to have found a buyer yet. Another MGA for 14,800. Right, that was quite a bonny thing. TR6 or so, but doesn't tell us what for. The Morris Minor pickup done up as the fire engine for Morris Motor Works, £10,525. I would say that seems cheap for all the work that's gone into that because it looked very nice. And I'll tell you what, some people might prefer the 2CV, £9,438, but personally, if it was me, I'd have the Morris 1000 every day. Now, that BMW looks convertible for £20,000. That's a good result, but it was a lovely car. And I'm not too surprised at the price that that's gone for. Now, the 63 Jaguar Mark II Coombs Evocation, £55,000. Yeah, well, that's a good result, but you don't get much change if you were buying one to that sort of standard. A lot of money and a lot of time goes into producing a vehicle like that. An MGC Roadster, which has got 21,736. So obviously that stood up to somebody well above the other ones that were on sale. Now they are 53. What's that gone for? £4,576. Yeah. That's not a bad price. It's about fair. Yep, that's fair. The electric conversion for the MGB GT, 21,000. Well, again, that might sound a lot for a 1980 MGB, but when you consider how much an electric conversion would cost, that's looks quite cheap in some respects. So, would I choose it? No, I wouldn't personally choose it, but doesn't mean it's a bad car. It's just it doesn't really appeal to me. But there you go. It's one size doesn't always fit all, does it? Another XK120 sold for 50,000. So yeah, the Pagoda not showing has been sold yet, and another MGC. So I think that's 4 MGCs I've had in the sale, haven't there? Another Nagonda there, £120,000. Yep, I've already said all I need to say about that. £10,296 for the XJ6. Now I think this had 33,000 miles on the clock from new. Yeah, that looks quite a smart car, and not cheap, but it's not expensive. When you put it in perspective, of buy a cheap one and bring it up to the same standard, but you won't have the originality, you won't have the low mileage. And so I think that still seems quite cheap. And I think there's still room in there to make a little profit if you were willing to bide your time and hang on a bit. Now the Maserati 3200 GTA there, £6,864. I like these. I like them more than the 4200 because they've got the boomerang backlights. And I remember when they first came out, and they reminded me very much of the earlier Ferraris, the time when you had the 250 GTOs. Okay, I know they don't look like a 250 GTO, but they gave me that feeling of being like a proper old style Ferrari. And I've always liked them, always liked them. Mercedes 380, blimey. 37,500 for the 380 SLC. Now, I believe it was all a celebrity musician owned vehicle. They also had the Range Rover, which was withdrawn. But let's have a look and see. 41,000 miles, nut and bolt restoration by the SL shop. Well, that speaks volumes as well, doesn't it? But yeah, that obviously, as I say, speaks volumes. The fact that somebody's willing to pay 37,500 for it. We know that the fixed head ones are much rarer, and obviously it was in quite demand. So yeah, that's achieved a good result, I think. The California there not appear to have been sold yet. Again, as I said in the previous video, some cars are just ripe for the picking at the moment, and that's one of them because it's middle of the road in that it's not quite yet a classic, but it's not modern either. It's in between, and that's always tends to have been the time to just the sweet spot in which to pick them up. And the Audi TT for £3,661. I think that had a low mileage, 18,000, I think. Let's have a look. 13,000. Now that seems what a bargain. What a bargain. Now it was it right-hand drive? I'm sure it was right-hand drive. Let's have a look and see. No, it was left-hand drive. But yeah, even so, I think that is quite a bargain, that. Did the Daytona sell or didn't it? I'm going to make a prediction and say I love the Daytona. I think it's a lovely car. But it wouldn't surprise me if it hasn't yet got a buyer. But let's have a look and see. Right, so there's no price listed for it has been sold yet. And the only reason I said I don't think it'll have got a buyer is because of the high value. There might be a lot more people around that have the disposable income of the more acceptable amounts of money, shall we say. But there's less people who perhaps are willing to shell out as much as £500,000 for a car. Have a look at page 2 of the results. So the Continental R Mulliner version, wide body. That's not showing as sold yet. Neither is the SL AMG. And the E-Type still looks to be wanting a buyer. As does the Flying Spur. That's a lovely car, that. The Mini Cooper. Now that surprises me. I thought that would have been... That seems like a reasonable estimate to me. And it had undergone a lot of restoration work. I think that seemed a fair estimate. So I'm surprised that's not got a price listed as sold yet. Again, another Esprit there. So the last one was about 17, wasn't it? That's 20 and a half. So it's a bit of a trend. But you never can rely on trends. Trends change. The Wraith there, still looking for a buyer. Now the Vanquish S, 45,000. So, yeah, that's not too bad. I didn't really take a look at this one first time around. 39,000 miles. But with it being the more desirable S specification, it's cheap. The 911 Carrera RS Evocation there, no price listed for that one. The XK140, again, nothing for that. Yeah, okay. That Transit, I think I had 147 miles on the clock from new, and I think the estimate was 24 to 32, I think it was. £42,328. It's silly, isn't it? Absolutely silly. I mean, I can understand why somebody might want that in the collection, but I mean, and much as it's a lovely vehicle, £2,500 it cost in 1983, and it's very basic. It's a working van, but it's what it represents, isn't it? And again, it's the Ford market. Now with the Toyota Supra, I think somebody's got a good bargain there. £17,160, because I think the mileage was 19,000, I think. Memory serves me. Yeah, 19,000 miles. And it was a lovely looking car. So it's bang in the middle of the reserve, I think, as to what they said. I think somebody's got a really good buy with that one. I think that's a nice car. I think somebody's done very well with that. So whoever's bought it, I think you've done well. The second Vanquish there, 29,000. So cheap. And it was to S specification. Just so cheap. It is just unbelievable. Yeah. And as I said before, if you're brave enough at the moment to take the risk, you could get some really nice cars quite at an affordable price. The Continental are there for 27,000. I think they've got a good price for that. They've achieved quite a high price, I think, considering it's about 94,000 miles. I think they've done well with that. I really do. What else have we got? So the Series 2 Continental still doesn't appear to have found a buy yet. Yeah, the BMW 3 litre CSL there, the City Park edition, I think it was called, doesn't appear to have got a buyer yet. The Ferrari there sold for 53, so that's not a bad price. TR4, 21,000, yeah, that's not a bad price at all. And the V8 Pilot hasn't sold yet, or doesn't appear to have sold, I should say. Mexico there sold for £20,592. Now the Chinese Eye Silver Cloud Series 3 there, 62,920, which I think is about halfway between the estimate. So yeah, I think that's quite a good buy personally. DB7 GT was withdrawn, yeah. A 944 there for 3,890 buy. It's cheap, isn't it? Look at the 928 there. £2,974. Wow. That is cheap, isn't it? Again, the DS420 there, £1,300. And now the Lancia has sold, and it's sold for 88,000. So that's not done too badly. And the Renault Avantine's not done too badly either at 3,700. The Interceptor, 34,000. Well, basing it on the pictures, it deserves every penny of that. And because it looked to be a lovely car. The Prowler, no a buyer, it would appear yet, or nothing's been listed. Silver Shadow there for 8,000. Frog Eye Sprite, £13,728. I think they've got a good high price for that personally. 17,000 for the 54 Beetle there. That's done quite well, I think. £6,178 for the X19. I think that's done quite well as well. Yeah, that Volvo C70, it had 5,000 miles on the clock from new, £10,296. I think it's worth every penny of that. I thought it would be possibly between 8 and 10. Again, it was dangerous because it was offered without reserve. But I mean, you looked at the car, the pictures, and it just said, yeah, it's like a new car. And I think that's a fair price. Go and find another one, as they say. The ZT V8 there, £7,322. I think somebody's got a bargain there. I really do. In some respects, it's not surprised me that it's gone for under £8,000. It should have been between 8 and 10. And it should really, as I said before, at one time it would have been a starting point of 10 all day long. But yeah, it's somebody I think has got a really good bargain for that price. I really do. The supercharged Jaguar, 29,000. By gum, that's achieved a good price. And we know the XGR is the one that everybody wants because it's the big sporty one. And yeah, I know it's got 31,000 miles on the clock. Again, I think 29,000. Yeah, they've done very well. Now, interesting that R32 Golf, £14,300. I think that was a good buy. I do, and that's got to be a future collectible, surely. Between that and the Mark II that were sold earlier for 21, as I said in my previous video, I'd have chosen this one. I think it's very nice. Yeah, it's 23,900 miles. I thought it was a lowish mileage, so I think that was a very good buy personally. What else, Dan? Another SLC there. Sharp contrast to the other one at 37,000, isn't it? So it just speaks volumes for what the other one stands for, as we said. The Z4 there for £3,432. Again, cheap summer motoring, isn't it? The Saab there for 4.5. Yeah, that looked that seems quite cheap to me. Now the 96 Land Rover Discovery, I think that they've done quite well with that for £18,876. And I know it looked a nice car, and the mileage I think was about 39 or 43. Let's have a look and see. 34,000. So yeah, one owner from new. Lovely looking car, top specification, but even so, that means nothing so much nowadays. So I think they've done very well and they've achieved a good high selling price. The XK8, £13,750. So yeah, that's not a bad price. I think it was about on the estimate, and it had I think 38,000 miles on the clock. And when I looked at the pictures, it was a lovely car. And I think personally, I think somebody's got a good buy at that price. And there may be people out there who say that's a lot of money for an XK8. And yeah, fair enough. And we all know that you can pick up XK8s for just a couple of thousand, and even convertibles. You can pick them up cheap, but it's what you get for the money. And you wouldn't get one to this standard for that price. And to me, the smart money, if you can afford it, you get the best one you can. And somebody's obviously recognised the value in this car. It's not only low mileage, in beautiful condition, and it's the right specification. There's no way you could get a car like this for just a couple of thousand. And if you did, it's going to cost you a heck of a lot more to bring it up to the same standard. So I think this is quite a good, smart purchase by somebody. Well, if you stayed with me to the end, I hope you found that entertaining. And I'd be interested to know, what do you think the market's going to do? I mean, you just don't know, do you? I mean, it's the last couple of years has been very unpredictable. I think there's that adage that there's always a market for a good car, the right car, and I think that's true. Is it just that the price is falling now, just as a result of economic situations? Is it because of the impending EV market that's coming along and people are getting worried about having petrol vehicles? Or is it that the correction in market prices has perhaps a lot to do with during COVID, people went silly and they couldn't get out and about to go and look at things, but they were buying cars at auction blind. And I think personally, a lot of people probably got their fingers burnt and they were buying absolute piles of rubbish and paying extortionate prices for it. And obviously, the market's seen a correction with the economic downturn as well. Until next time, I'm going to say, well, thanks for joining me. And please, I'd be interested to know your comments and let me know what you think. So until next time, take care.